Hi everyone, this is Callie. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I'm creating a fun spring card using some lovely layers dies from Honeybee Stamps. They have a wonderful collection of die cuts called Lovely Layers, and I always love seeing what they produce every time there's a release. So with this last release, there's some birds and a nest, as well as some spring greenery. So off camera, I've die cut a bird, as well as all the parts from the nest set and some lavender stems, as well as some other decorative stems as well to make our card a bit more colorful and full. First up, I've die cut the nest from some craft cardstock. Specifically, this is Nina Desert Storm, and I have some cappuccino ink that I'm just gonna use to add some dimension and some shading to these elements. With this nest, I'm not trying to blend seamlessly. I'm kind of making it splotchy on purpose, adding more concentrated ink colors in certain areas and then not in others. So it looks splotchy, but I'm going for that rustic look. So I'm ink blending in certain spots and skipping others so that when I layer all these pieces together, we have spots of darkness and lighter colors. I'm also making sure to ink blend the center of the nest as well. This is going to create that depth and curvature of the nest. So now that I'm done ink blending, I'm going to roughly layer the pieces together and then set all this aside so that we can work on ink blending and adding color to the other elements for this card. These little twigs kind of go on top, creating lots of dimension and details. Next, I'm going to work on my bluebird. I've die cut the pieces in white because I'm going to be adding two-tone colors. So if you Google a bluebird, you're going to see that they have a coral orangey chest. So I wanted to make sure that the colors faded well into each other. So white cardstock was a good option. I've ink blended my blue and I used some brown residual ink from my brown blending brush to blend the feet really quick. And then I moved on to some melon ink for the chest. And then I decided I wanted it to be a little bit more coral-like, so I introduced some pink as well. These little feathers and eggs are from the Lovely Layers nest set, so I want to coordinate the feathers with the bird, so I'm doing some blues and corals again. And then for the little eggs, I wanted a robin's egg blue color. So at first I used some Distress Oxide and speckled egg and decided it's a little bit too gray, so I'm introducing some seafoam ink. This is going to brighten it up some and give it more of a teal color. Okay, so now let's work on some foliage stems. I am keeping the die cuts in their negatives. That helps me with a little bit more stability. The delicate stems are gonna fold and want to bend as I ink blend if they're not sitting in their negative. So that's just a little tip if you don't already do that. That just helps me keep things in place while I ink blend and I'm not damaging the delicate branches or stems on the foliage. So as you can see, I work one color at a time and then I'll switch it out and blend a darker color to create some contrast and shading. And then when I pop it out, you can see the two tones in the foliage. So this second stem, I'm going to do two different colors. First, I'm going to go with a sage color just for the stems itself. And then for the blooms at the top, I'm going to go with a pink. I don't know if this is realistic. I just thought some pink on my card would be great. So I decided to do two tones here to create that look. I'll go ahead and do the same thing with the second sprig here, and then we can move on to the lavender sprigs. This is going to be the last of the sprigs for this card. And as you can see, I didn't cut the full sprig. I knew that I was going to be doing a lot of trimming and that I wouldn't need the full green stem. So I die cut that haphazardly and just made sure to get the top portion of the lavender and just a bit of the green. I die cut the second portion of the lavender heads in lavender cardstock, and now I'm just doing that whole splotchy look again, adding colors here and there to get a more realistic shade on these lavender heads. And then I'll go ahead and piece everything together now that all of our ink blending is done on these die cuts. I'm going to add some glue and add all of the lavender tops to those lavender sprigs, and then that will help hide some green too if you're not perfect with your ink blending into the stems. So I have my lavender sprigs done and I'm going to work on my bird. I'm going to attach the body and then we'll go ahead and attach the wing as well as the face and beak as well as the eyes. So it's all very intuitive how these pieces line up. The die cuts have etching in them, and it's really obvious where the eyes are going to go, where the beaks are going to go. So if you're worried about that, don't be. The way these dies are designed makes it easy for you to layer the pieces together. Last but not least, there's this nest to put together. And so I'm just going to glue the layers, and you can tell also what layers go on top. The more detailed ones are going to go on top. The more solid ones go at the bottom. So that's fairly easy to figure out. And then the thicker portion of the nest is going to be in front. But if you have any questions with putting these dies together, all you have to do is refer back to the product info page. There are some great digital mock-ups to show you what it's supposed to look like. So it's going to be fairly easy and straightforward for you to put it together. I'm just tucking in my eggs now, putting them inside this nest, which I am starting to love so much. I don't know about you, but I get past all of the coloring, all of the ink blending, and my favorite part is just assembling and putting the card together. It's kind of like putting Legos together and just watching what you've created come to life, if that even makes sense. But I absolutely love that about card making, just bringing your vision to life. So for the background, I just wanted some soft color. So I've got some sage ink, and I'm using a background blending brush to blend on that color for a soft look. This brush is flat and it's got really soft bristles, so it's really easy for me to cover a large area but use a light hand for a really smooth blend. So I like using this for backgrounds. And then for a decorative border, I'm going to use a stitched rectangle die just to add some stitching and interest to my card. So I'm going to die cut that with a rectangle stitch die, and then we're going to go ahead and quickly assemble our card to make sure everything fits, and I'm going to get a bit of overhang. Sometimes a card is more interesting with some foliage overhang, which I don't mind, and I didn't want to cut off. You can obviously cut it off if you want to, or just squeeze things in a little bit tighter. I don't mind the overhang. I actually think it's a bit more interesting. So I'll go ahead and attach all of those background elements onto that background panel first, and then attach the elements that go in front or on top of those. I'm using some liquid adhesive on the nest because it has those leaves and foliage underneath to attach to. But for the bird, I'm going to use some foam adhesive because that's going to help bring up the height of the bird since there's nothing behind it. And then last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and trim off some of the stems on the lavender sprigs and then attach it around this nest to create some color and bulk on our little scene. So last but not least, I have the Best of Everything stamp set here. There's some great sentiments on this set. I'm just moving my stamp around to make sure there's some space for a good sentiment for the space that I have left on my card. I'm just going to simply stamp my sentiment in black right onto that card panel, and that will finish my card. As soon as I glue this onto a card base, it is complete. I hope you enjoyed this spring card. If you liked the products and are interested in the products that I used, be sure to check out the links below where everything will be linked for your convenience. And if you're interested in the color combinations that I used for the inks, be sure to check out the coordinating blog post where everything will be listed there for you as well. I hope you'll consider giving this video a thumbs up. I'm going to link 2 more videos for you to watch if you're interested in seeing more. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Bye, everyone.